Hi, I'm Clive Thomas, and I'm Emyr Thomas's dad from Pembrokeshire and in West Wales. And Emyr is 16 years of age, and at the minute he's going to Portfield School. Been to mainstream for 3 years. Unfortunately, couldn't cope with the work in mainstream, so he's gone to Portfield now. Rather than keep him in the classroom for 5 days a week, he spends one day, which is a Wednesday, on work experience with the Blue Sky project, and then he does Friday then is Pembrokeshire College, where he's doing taster courses, and at the minute he's doing building. Academically, he's not a classroom sort of person, but hands-on, practical, outside, in the elements, no matter what, he's in his element. He hasn't actually decided what he wants to do as a career path, apart from continuously saying, I want to be a farmer. But on the other hand, he, at the minute in school, is doing a play, and he says he'd like to go to the Torch Theatre to do drama. So it's a bit one extreme to the other, really, and it's an indoor-outdoor thing. So his brother at the minute, who he looks up to all the time, he's involved with farming, and I think that's the path Emyr will be taking. One thing which is going to be a big barrier, I think, is his driving, if you like. He's autistic, so I think that'll be a bit of a battle, and hopefully he'll get to pass his test, and we'll see where it goes from there. With Emyr, because he's also got behaviour issues, as well as a few medical conditions, to look at him, you'd think he's just a healthy, normal 16-year-old. It's only when he starts to misbehave that people think, well, somebody needs to sort him, which was my perception years ago, until we had Emyr. One thing which he gets frustrated about is the fact that he can't do things like his eldest brother would do. Reading and writing he finds very difficult. He's been given opportunities, one being mainstream school, which people thought that would be the best path for him. He came out of a unit when he was in primary school into mainstream. Unfortunately, he couldn't cope with the work, so his misbehaviour started to increase. He's always had, since the age of 8, I think it was, the behaviour intervention team, who've been brilliant. Chris Rickard knows him inside out just as well as what we do. He knows which buttons to press to get him to come back down. But unfortunately, because Emyr is now 16, he's going to lose out because he's gone into the adult side of things. So we'll be without the behaviour and intervention team. We've been told that we can do a referral, but obviously it all takes time. Biggest issue we find is Pembrokeshire County Council. The understanding of special needs children, although the schools have got facilities, to access those facilities for some people, it's a bit of a hill to climb. And with the way funding's going, it's getting more difficult. They support us through his schooling, attends the meetings with us, and does the necessary to sort the things out that we don't quite understand relating to his education. That's in conjunction with the behaviour team. He's been going to some workshops with them, and shortly they're going to be having some of the children to interview somebody who they're taking on, and Emyr has been included in that panel. which is a pretty important thing for him. As I said earlier, he looks up to Rhys, and he worships the ground that Rhys walks on. He'd like to be very much like his brother. He attended the same school as what Rhys did, which is St Thomas Picton. Rhys, though, obviously it was a lot easier for us purely because of the issues and the needs that Emyr has. Rhys was dyslexic, but there was nowhere near the challenges with us with Rhys as what there is with Emyr. You always find that it's a bit of a battle trying to get things accepted by the various bodies involved as regards to funding and things like that. The one thing which Rhys went to college for 2 years in Gelliair, a farming college. There's people that have said that Emyr can go down the same path as Rhys, but again, funding has been withdrawn with learning support in the college. So I don't know how Emyr would cope in that environment without support. Hopefully he can come out of college with something, because he does want to go to college and learn, which is a good thing, but he'll have to go with support because of his behaviour issues. But again, it's just like flicking a switch. You wouldn't think 1 minute that he has an issue, and then the next minute somebody sees something which they've never seen before, which is difficult for us, because he tends to bottle things up, but it takes a while for somebody to see the other side of Emyr. Well, I wouldn't want anybody to be in the situation that we were in. Originally, we were told that he was too intelligent to be in a special school, but not intelligent enough to be in mainstream. We found out after 18 months that, yes, that was the case. He wasn't academically intelligent enough to be in mainstream school, although he gained a lot of other things in mainstream. He suffered, if you like, with his education because he wouldn't accept that he couldn't do it. I'd like to think that more people would understand children in that situation, because there's always an in-between, and we were one of the in-between, which became very frustrating for us. Speaking to the local MP, the local councillor, just to get things moving. That one for us was frustrating and annoying, and unfortunately you could say things which weren't recognised. The only way to get something was to put it down on a letter, write, or an email. Very frustrating. I wouldn't want anybody to be in that situation, but unfortunately I think more families are going to be in that situation. It just doesn't give you any faith in a system where you've got to keep on plugging. You're getting the answers you want to hear, but nothing actually happens. And myself, I just got annoyed and spoke to the head of the education. And until I'd done that, we were just felt as if we were hitting our heads against a brick wall. Originally, Charlotte was Emyr's key worker. And the wording, like the correct wording, was used rather than the way we put it across to education. And she would fight our corner and put things in place which we would suggest, and the best way to go round getting the best education for Emyr. Something which we wouldn't have been able to do ourselves. There's no doubt about that. Action for Children there have been brilliant, and Siobhan as well now, who's Emyr's under her wing. Similar sort of situation again, where we've got a problem at the minute. Where do we go from here? Emyr would like to finish school, but we'd like him to stay on until he's 19. At present, his behaviour has kind of escalated again, which is difficult for his mother because she's usually the one that carries the brunt of it. We'd like to think that with Siobhan's help and Action for Children, that he can move on to college and succeed in achieving a goal, whatever that goal may be. I think without their help, with him now being 16, as regards to Pembrokeshire County Council, it would just be wave goodbye, because he's at that age legally where they provide in what they could up to the age of 16, and if he said he didn't want to go to school or college, they wouldn't have to actually provide anything legally. But with the likes of these people on board, you tend to get a bit more clout, if you like, purely because they know the system far better than what we will ever know. And I'd like to think that people like that are there to support families in the future. We'd like to think, like, aiming for little goals, one being passing his driving test, holding down a full-time job. Emyr has a bit of difficulty staying focused on certain activities, and that's a concern for us, is that he can't stay focused on a particular task. And I suppose we need to teach him, and he needs to realise that as you get older, you've got to do things that you're asked to do, even if you don't want to do them. He says he'd like to have a girlfriend, but he's not going to get married. He wants a house, but he doesn't want a house too far away from mum, because mum can still do the cooking and the cleaning. The difficulty that we find is when people look at Emyr, they think he's just a normal 16-year-old. It's only when they see another side of him, they think, what's wrong with him? He's been confirmed as being autistic. That took us 4 years actually to get to that point. And one thing which a lot of professionals were saying, he can't be autistic because when he speaks to you, he can look you in the face. Autistic children can't do that. Emyr obviously isn't the norm that an autistic child would be. We'd like to think he can get himself a job and hold it down and, take responsibility of what is set in front of him. And maybe one day he will meet the right person, and rather than just being a girlfriend, he might be married.